Hello again, and thank you for starting this little journey with me, which is a bit of a mixture. Now, this is not anything like the last series of rides in the How Gills. That's a very hard act to follow, isn't it? And thank you all so much. I'm glad you all seemingly enjoyed that little series of rides. No, this is a little bit closer to home, and the scenery just doesn't come up to those series of rides. And I'm going to tell you of a rather embarrassing situation on this ride. As you can see on the speedometer, you can see that little green light flashing. That tells me that my left indicator has been left on, and it goes on and on and on. So ignore that if you will, but that has led me to fit that indicator back on again since this ride, because it wasn't until I actually got home and watched this back again that I realised I'd left that on, and that could have been disastrous, as you can imagine. It's bad enough trying to avoid having people pull out in front of you at the best of times, and if you've got a left indicator on, they think you're going to turn off left, don't they? And they pull straight in front of you. So yes, when I got back I thought, no, this has got to go back on the Hurricane, and took it off the meter when I sold the meter, and had it where they're waiting. And when I looked initially at the wiring on the Hunter, I thought, that's a bit more complex than a meter, so I didn't fit it. However, I was determined to do so when I got back. Anyway, it's now fitted, and the following ride after this one, you will actually hear it doing its sort of beeping on that particular ride, and that's to follow. So yes, I was very much in two minds whether to actually show this ride at all, because of the embarrassment that I felt about leaving that on. I can't believe I didn't notice it. There we go. My friend Chris tells me I was watching the road rather than looking at the speedometer. Yes, well, thank you very much, Chris. I'm not sure about that. So the indicator is now fitted, as I say, and it wasn't very difficult at all. And I might actually just have a little very short video on that in the future, just to show how it connects up for anybody interested. The indicator, in fact, another reason for getting one is because it's made in England, and that's such a rare thing, isn't it? Anything made in England nowadays. In fact, I was watching a video by the Midland Bullet Riders, they're called, and it was a video about the BSA story and why did it collapse, and it led on actually to British industry and the collapse of British industry. And we all know how this country's Birmingham area especially was renowned for its engineering and manufacturing, and obviously there are still manufacturing going on in the Birmingham area and in other places too, but by and large we have lost all that, and that saddens me greatly, as I'm myself an engineer, and this country has never recognised engineering as a profession. It's always been seen as a second-class occupation. However, I'm not going to go back over that. I'm now retired from that. I just enjoy my engineering now, rather than having to be at the whim of an employer. So we're heading off up this road, and that light, as you can see, is still flashing. I still haven't noticed it, even though I've done some turns, and it's still flashing away. So where are we? Well, we're up in the I don't know what you call it really, the sort of north of Lancaster, in the Crooklands area, Heversham, heading off towards, just over a canal there. Well, we have travelled this road once or twice before, but not very often. However, more embarrassment in this next story, and the little story really is quite a cautionary tale for me, because I was 18 and I had the Royal Enfield Crusader Sports, which I bought on hire purchase. Now this is rather nice. This man reverses all the way back for me. Look at that. He obviously noticed that there was a little pulling for him, and he saw me and he reversed all the way back. That was very kind. So we'll just go past him. There we are. So pulling for me.
Oh, thank you.
Right, off we go. And yes, 18. And we all know what 18-year-old young men are like, don't we? Those of us that have been through that period in our lives. The Royal Enfield Crusader Sports was quite a nippy bike, and I was coming. Oh, it's at the airport service road in Portsmouth. Get back to where I was, and I was. Some of you know I was born in Portsmouth. Lived there up until I was about 20 or so. And Portsmouth is in Hampshire, down on the south coast of England. It's a little island. In fact, mainly the Portsea and Southsea area were the only real bits of dry land. Most of Portsmouth is actually below sea level, and it was all quite swampy. And the airport area, which is now a housing estate, so I'm not sure I'd want to live on a swampy place. But anyway, it's all houses. But in those days, there was a service road that ran round the airport, field it was, and often used to flood. And it ran from a awful named place called Rat Lane, and it was a little bridge over the railway there. And it took you up. You rode up over this bridge. It was a very temporary affair, as much as Portsmouth was in those days. After all the bombing, and as I rode up over this, I came down the other side into the airport service road, and in front of me there was a lad on a scooter, and we're talking 1960s here, modern rocker stuff. Now I was never a rocker, despite Ainsworth Rider thinking I was. You must have been. No, I wasn't actually, but I saw this lad on this scooter. I thought I'd overtake him. So I went past him and got around the first bend okay, but I was going far too fast for quite a tight right-hander, and I didn't make it. It's a long story, short story. Yes, so straight up the curb, unfortunately for me, there was not a brick wall. It was an 8-foot high wire fence around some buildings which were there, and straight into the fence, knocked it completely flat and went over the other side, and picked myself up. Fortunately, without too much damage. I think I must have just cut my ankles actually, and now I was quite a lazy boy. I realised that, and I'm probably still very lazy in some respects, because I used to have my shoes. I didn't have shoelaces. I took the shoelaces out and I put elastic in them, so I wouldn't have the bother of doing up shoelaces off this. I told you this is embarrassing. So anyway, I got over to the side. This lad on this scooter pulled up by then, so I didn't think you'd make that bend. I thought, no, you're quite right, I didn't, did I? And yes, got up, and I couldn't find my shoes. Had flown off in the accident. It was a prang, and lovely word that is, prang. It comes from the war, doesn't it? The RAF slang, pranged my kite. Well, I certainly did prang that Crusader Sports. Unfortunately, those Crusader Sports, the early ones, the front forks were quite thin material, and they bent backwards, so not damaging the frame, I discovered later, but it did. It dented the front rim was badly damaged, so of course I had to push the thing home from there. So yeah, got myself back out from this flattened fence, and it was a Sunday, so there was no one around. Do you remember Sundays back in those days? I mean, no one was around on a Sunday. We weren't allowed to go out playing when we were children on a Sunday. The whole world seemed to shut down in Britain, well, it did in Portsmouth anyway. No one was around at all, and I used to detest it. I mean, all the shops were closed, and invariably it was raining, and Oh, it was a complete day out of one's life, I feel. Yeah, it's all very different now. It wasn't until 1960s, actually, the late 60s, that things started to, actually saw people out and about on a Sunday. And of course, now anything goes, and it is the day to be out. It would be a lunch on a Sunday lunchtime. Anyway, back to the story. Yes, push the bike home. And in those days, you could order. I mean, unbelievably, this shows how small the Royal Enfield company was, because you could actually order direct from Royal Enfield themselves any parts you wanted. There were dealers. Obviously, there was Harry Varner in Portsmouth. He was a Royal Enfield dealer. I used to get a couple of bits from, not much. And there were Deep Rose Brothers and Gander and Gray, both of whom actually all their stuff was taken over by Hitchcock's, the Royal Enfield dealers now. They bought all their stock when those two companies closed. But by the by, yes, so I ordered some new forks from Royal Enfield Direct. And in those days, don't even remember this as well, some of you, you could order things cash on delivery, and you paid the postman. Now, I always did it that way, and I used to have to keep a little bit of money in the house for my mum to pay, because I was never there, I was working, and so mum sometimes never had enough money. She had to scout around trying to find enough money to pay the postman for these bits I'd ordered, and oh dear, I did get into trouble over that. My dad took me to one side. Look, you can't do this. You've got to leave enough money for mum to pay the postman when the stuff arrives. Anyway, yes, the forks arrived, and I'd ordered not Royal Enfield Crusader Sports front forks. I'd ordered those for the Royal Enfield Continental GT, which was the two very fast looking and actually quite fast Royal Enfield 250, which they brought out. Proper cafe racer that was. And it really looked the part, and that's what I wanted my Crusader Sports to look like. Swept back exhaust, rear sets, all the clip-ons, the works. Now, I was never one to go to cafes, to be perfectly honest, coffee bars. It wasn't for me. I didn't meet the sort of people I wanted. They didn't want to talk about motorcycles, they wanted to talk about girls, which didn't interest me at all. And not talking about them anyway. And no, I never frequented them, and they were all a lot older actually. I was, they seemed older, probably only a year or two, but I don't know, there was something about it. But the leather jacket thing never appealed to me either. I preferred the barber wax cotton. Yes, I was a funny child. So, when these forks arrived, they were for the Continental GT, and they weren't the same. They were much thicker material. And the fork springs, didn't fit down the centre of the front forks. So that was no good. I had to go back and then order the proper ones, and they came, rebuilt the Crusader Sports over a period of about 2 months, 3 months, something like that. Got a new front wheel. But that bike was never the same. When the front wheel got rebuilt, I had it rebuilt by a chap who didn't have any legs. He lived in part of Portsmouth called St Mary's Road, off St Mary Road, and he built wheels. But he always used scramble spokes, and he used to pull it all in very tight, and it distorted the front brake, and it was dreadful. Had it re-skimmed, but that didn't work terribly well. But that's my cautionary tale, and I learned an awful lot from that. I've tried to avoid coming off in such a way in future. Now we're coming up to this little level crossing. This is so rare to actually see this come down and a train go past here. And we do get a motorcyclist come up alongside us on a Triumph 900. So I'll leave you with that for a moment. We're just going to push back and have a little chat with him. Hello. Nice Triumph. What Triumph is it?
900. 900.
Oh, all right.
It's got overly fast.
bit bigger than this one.
Hey?
A bit bigger than this one.
What's that one?
350.
That'll be alright, these ones go.
Oh, perfect, yeah. Oh. So yeah, so busy chatting, I didn't notice the gates had gone back up again. Fortunately, there was nobody behind us. Anyway, so that's the story from this ride, and I hope you've stuck with it. This is, oh dear, so embarrassing. But the next ride will be in on a rather lovely little road, local road, which I've never been down before. So perhaps you'll join me for that one if you've managed to stick with this one. If you haven't stuck with it, well, I can't blame you. I've enjoyed telling the story anyway, and we won't have anything quite like this again. We've done that, been there, and that's all in the past, isn't it? So look forward to the future and make some new memories, and hope to see you again soon. So yeah, just off on our way home now for just something to eat, because we were off out quite early. As you saw, that sun was quite low in the sky. So thanks for watching. See you soon.